really warm welcome here at Krannich Solar webinar. My name is Justin Gunn, and today we welcome you to our K2 system basic training. And therefore, I invited K2 Systems. With me is Ciaran Murphy today. Ciaran, welcome.
Thank you, Justin, for the warm welcome, and thank you to everyone for joining today. You might have seen on the invite Ronnie was participating, but as a late replacement, I hope I can fill in with all of what you want to see. So I think in the invite that went out, it was all about tile roofing. So we're going to focus on that today, but also talk a little bit about the software that we have and the digital solutions. So K2 Base being the main one, but also a little bit about how it is integrated with some of the other features, and of course with the Krannich webshop.
Sounds great. We are really happy to have you here. For all the attendees, if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat about K2 products, about the planning from Ciaran. We can ask him everything during the presentation or at the end. Feel free. The second point is we have no presentation for you, no handouts, because we are doing everything in live. So sorry for that, but yeah, just follow us and you will catch all the information. After the part from Ciaran, I have Simon from Krannich Solar with me, and we want to show you after the K2 base planning how to put all the informations or bring all the informations in the Krannich webshop and start the first ordering. So that's it for the moment. I will hand over the word to Ciaran, and yeah, let's go. Enjoy the presentation.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just share my screen now. You should see the website. If not, please let me know. So maybe just one point to add to that as well. While we don't have the handout today, a lot of what we will be showing is also on our YouTube channel. So we've got lots of videos. So if you feel you missed something, feel free to catch up there. So I'm on our website now, but we're going to talk more about the My K2 Digiverse is maybe one way of saying it, but the online solutions that we offer, the primary one being K2 Base, which is here, but this is just one tool of many. So I'm going to jump to a page which is the My K2, and you can access this from the website. And from here, you have access to all of the K2 online tools. So we're going to go through a lot of detail today, but if you just need a quick price, you can access it here. If you need some information about the buddy system, that's also available from here. And of course, then K2 Base and the Docu app, which are all great features that are all online as well. So going down to K2 Base, you can click it this way. It doesn't really like it when you have two pages open, so we'll just close this one. And now I'm in my K2 Base account. These are all some of the projects that I have made, or we have made as our webinar team. However, we also have the option of looking at projects from other people in the company. So if you have a company of 10 employees, 20 employees, 30 employees, they can all have their own base account. And from there, you can access projects that have been made by other people in the company and work collaboratively on those projects. Also a great way of sharing. If someone is sick on one day and you need to get that project finished on time, you can continue their work who have already started it. So to start a new project, we can jump back. We'll jump back actually just to the all projects here. You can start a new project here. I've already begun one. There was one this morning that we did done actually with the German team, but we're going to just start one in Greece today. So the location has, oh, we've already got a bit too far. Let's delete everything and start right from the beginning. I think that's a good idea. So we have one on one of the islands in Greece, I believe, and we can put a name to it. We're just going to call it Krannich webinar today, or Krannich tile webinar today. But also if we had information that we wanted to provide for our customer, we know who they are, we know when it might be planned as well, we can put in this information that is makes the project look a little bit nicer, a little bit easier. However, doesn't necessarily mean anything for the static part of things. And that's probably what we're most focused about today, the static side of the PV installation. So for this one, maybe Klaus, the man behind the camera here, he can be our contact person, and maybe we can put some details in for that. But moving forward now, we need to know what is going to occur on our rooftop when we're putting PV. And for many countries within, or so all the countries within Europe, there are the European standards, which are an overlaying set of, it's not so much a suggestion, but a minimum required standard which things should be built to. And so if you have any problems in the future, you can say, hey, I have built to the European standards, or country-specific standards as well. And if there's an issue with products or insurance or sort of whatever, you can refer back to that document. These standards are a little bit different in each country, but the general feel is the same. You have a wind speed or a snow speed. In Greece today, we're probably not going to have too much snow, but we have a wind speed that's expected in this region. And we need to know what sort of terrain is around, because wind in a really open space is going to act a little bit differently if it's in a closed space as well. So if you think about it in terms of a calculation that we're trying to solve, these are all of our inputs that we need. They are set. Your project will be at a specific location. Your project will experience so much wind. It will have a specific terrain category. So here we're right on the coast, so we can select number 0 for the terrain category. And in the snow sense, it's not so much of an issue here, but if you are in the more northern region, or if you're in a mountainous region where snow does exist, the same sort of things happen. So the map will be a little bit different for how much snow is expected to be there. And there's information about the topography of that section as well. So these are all taken from the Eurocodes and the National Annex, and this is sort of the safety net that ensures that the product or the products, if installed correctly, will be securely placed on the roof. There are a few things that you have to choose as an installer or a project manager about how much safety you would like to add to the roof. These are all also defined by the European or the Eurocode, sorry, and they are to do with the design working life. So you can have a 25-year working life or a 50-year working life. Of course, if there's any information, it will pop up. Here it has popped up in German. That's only because my computer is in German. However, my base account is in English here. So if your computer is registered in English, or I think in one of 30 odd languages that we have input in base, you will have this information in that specific language. Also, what's important is the consequence class. So here, this is an input. Again, unfortunately, it's taken from German for this webinar, but if you open it in your base account, it should open up in English. And it provides a little bit more information from what the standards specify and how to categorize the project that you are doing. And effectively, it's an option if something bad is to happen. So if the modules come off the roof, what is the consequence that this will bleed? If it's in an agricultural field, there's not much walkway and not many pedestrians, walking underneath, chances of damage is quite small. However, if you're in a quite crowded area, then obviously if something does happen, the chances of it being critical or major is more, and so we need to take this into account about how we are planning our software or planning our project, sorry. So once we've got through with our loads, we can move on to our base project. And here, this is also an important input part of base. So as I was saying before, these 3 parts here are our input values. They exist. There's not so much we can do about it, but it's really important to make sure that they are as accurate as possible because this is a simulation, and if you put poor information in, you will get poor information out. So in this case, it's really important to make it as accurate as possible. If you are unsure about what the part is, it's a good thing you're here, because then hopefully you can learn a little bit. But there is a lot of information on our website and on YouTube as well, explaining the little bits. So in this case, I want to build a roof. I want to build some PV on this roof here specifically. I have the option of a flat roof. So this is not a flat roof for us. We're defining a flat roof as something that's from 0 to 10 degrees and made out of a sort of a gravel roof or a concrete roof. For anything that's above 10 degrees, the roofing shell or the material on the roof is a little bit different. So tile, trapezoidal, these are some of the major ones. And if you click on them here, you see these options that are there. So it's important to select the gable roof if you have a gable roof. The reason for this comes from how the calculation is done. A monopitched roof and a gable roof, you could argue, are very similar. However, the calculation itself takes this information into account, and you will have a less accurate report if you use the wrong one. So monopitched obviously just being a one-sided slope and a gable roof being a two-sided slope. So we've got our gable roof here. We're going to use a tile roof, as we said before. And then starting on the low end of the roof, within a couple of clicks, we can just draw our roof. And you'll see here, it's not exactly overlapping the picture that's there. And maybe I can just turn off some of this just to make it a bit more clear. And this isn't incredibly worrisome. It just potentially doesn't look as nice as it could. The reason being almost all of the satellite images are taken at some slight slant. And you can see obviously with the shadows and the roof or the wall that is here, that we're not directly over the roof. What's important is the location, which we've already set from the project part, and the distances relative to what is actually in existence. So in this case, I could just do it as per the Google Maps. However, if I had any information from site, this would be more impressive or more important to fill out than what we do here. So in this case, maybe I don't have so much information from the workplace. I'm just doing an initial plan, and I'm just going to put in some random values. So it does look, this building is quite high, so I'm going to put it as 18 meters, and maybe we have a sort of 27-degree slope. We chose before that it was tile, but if you've made the wrong choice, you can update it here as well. And here then we can put in some building information in terms of the distance between the rafters, the width of the rafters, and again, I might just be assuming that one of these values is the same or is something, and I haven't checked it yet. So I could also put that in here and say something like assumed building values, check prior to installation, or something that lets the users or the installers know that we are just doing this as a plan, and to get a valuable information at the end, we should look at it firstly on site and then recalculate if anything is different. So there is one way. This has been one way of filling out this information, and you can use this drawing here. You get some options of putting in the information manually as well. So if you did have a bit of information from site, you can do it this way. There's an option of having the satellite view that we have, but there's also the option of looking topographically, directly over the roof. So in this case, it was 27 degrees, coming away from that 27 degrees, looking perpendicular to the roof. You can also see that here that these values have changed. So now we're at 15 or almost 16 meters. And if we look at it as the satellite view, we're at 14. And that's just because we're going from that bird's eye view now to being perpendicular from the from the roof. We also have the option of toggling on and off quite a few different points, and this, you'll see this more on the next part, but here is the rafters. So we've put in this rafter spacing of 0.6 meters. If we're not sure of what that means, then we can click on the picture or the question mark, sorry, and there will be a nice little picture which explains most of what we're looking for. Something that we see often in different regions, and here I'm just putting in some sort of random values, but if it's a little bit more, so I know in Sweden, for example, the rafters are a lot wider apart, but you also have the situation where the rafters don't necessarily start from this one side or the other, or they might have a specific distance from the edge of the roof. So you can fill all of this information in, or this optional extras from adding like a rafter here. So you set a rafter on the far edge, and then you maybe know that the first rafter is 1 meter away, and then everything will work kind of backwards from there as well. And so these are things that I wouldn't know from this project, because I said I'm just assuming some of the roof values, but once you're on site and you have this information, you can put it in quite easily and quickly using these tools on the site. So once we've got our building, which we are here, we have the choice of playing around with what we want to do with that building. And that might be actually a good point to say, Justin, was there any questions from this point? Because from now on, we're going to be playing with the system, whereas up until now, we've just been putting in the information. So had anything come up, or was there anything that I could go through in a little bit more detail before we go through the design part?
No, we have no questions until this point, but for later on, when we choose the modules, we have a bigger question. But
okay,
let's go.
Wonderful. Okay, so now we've got our roof. That's all sorted. We're going to jump into our design part, and this is where we have the option of where we're going to place our modules and what we're going to do with them, and obviously choose them as well. So, so we might have, or if we know our modules, which hopefully we have some idea at the beginning of what we want to use, we can pre-select a module from the database, which is in here. There's hundreds of thousands of different modules. If you have one that you that is not in this sort of list straight away, obviously you can just type something and you'll find some other ones. But the one we had before was this Axitec one. This is one of our preset ones that it knows that we've used it before, so it's put it to the top of the list. So maybe if we're going to use it again, then it's a bit easier to find. If we have a module manufacturer in the system, but we cannot find them specific modules, then we also have the option of adding or having a request to have one added to the system as well. So this database that we have is a independent database, and so we're trying to keep it as up to date as possible. But obviously, the more modules that are coming out, the larger this database grows. So if you've got a newer module, or maybe one that's just a little bit different, you can't find it, you can put it in here, and we should then add it as soon as possible. So this is one now that's already been pre-filled. However, if you wanted to use a module that, or you didn't have any module that you wanted to use, you just had a rough idea that you wanted a 440, 450 module, and you had the rough idea of the size, you can also fill in the user-defined version as well. So maybe you've got a slightly odd option, or it's just like a different shape that's a little bit there, not in the system, you can fill it in here as well. So there's a lot of flexibility there. But we'll just jump back to this one. Simon, was that what the question was about, or was there not Simon, sorry, Justin, was that what the question was about, or was there something else that we could go into there?
Something else, it's about the planning. When I design a system, or should we do it later on?
I think we'll just go through it then, and then just if we either get to that point, maybe just interrupt, or we do it at the end. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. So now we've chosen our module, and now we have the choice of choosing a specific system. So The single rail and the solid rail are the two more common ones that we would use for the tile roofs across Europe, really. These refer to a rail type. We're not going to go into too much detail of that now, but the single rail has a fixing channel on the side, so it's a little bit quicker to install in certain situations. And the solid rail has a fixing channel down below, which provides different advantages, and there's a larger range of rails, which in situations with really high snow can be beneficial as well. So you'll also notice that there's a star, and this you will see on all of the K2 range. So if you're doing a flat roof solution or if a trapezoidal solution, you'll probably see 2 or 3, up to maybe 6 different options here. And most of the time, one of them will have a star on it. And this represents the system that's most common used in the area that you are planning in. So if you're coming new to the software or new to the K2 products, it's kind of the easiest way to get involved in the region. It's not directly related to availability, but obviously that should relate to some form of availability as well, because if it's the most common system in the region, then the retailers and warehouses should have that on stock as well. So I'm going to click now the solid rail. I have the option of the portrait and landscape. So portrait for the tile roofs in many cases was the ideal option, and the reason for that is the fixing location. And I'll put back on my roof crests, and not my roof crest, sorry, my rafters, and you can see now hopefully that when the rafters are going to be running this way, we can run rails horizontally, which means we can clamp in an easier way. And I'm just going to jump forward before jumping back to see what I mean there, that we have our rafters running vertically. I can turn my panels off. Our rails now will be running horizontally, which means our modules can be clamped in the most suitable location if they are also running vertically. So we can play around a little bit with what we're going to do here. We've got this we've got this sort of roof front view at the moment, but we can also plan it sort of like this. So if we had a chimney or something that was on the roof, we can avoid it. It's quite easy to move the modules round. If you want to put some in, there's a yellow line here, which we'll discuss in a little bit. But if you knew that there was a few modules missing here, one way of getting rid of them is to use this eraser button or delete modules, and you can either delete a few, and if we jump to the 2D view, probably more suitable for the larger flat roofs, but there are also some shortcuts as well. So if you press Shift and click on a module, it will delete the whole module. If you press Control, you can delete the whole column. And if you press Alt, you can draw a square that will delete some of the modules or more of the modules than you had before. So we'll just leave it as this for the moment. Maybe there's something that's on the roof or something that's planned to be on the roof. It's not yet there, but we don't want to build a couple of modules there. And so when we're still on this page, there's also the option of viewing it quite differently. So maybe you want to know the distance from the roof edge rather than the number of modules. So you can set this up quite specifically by using this tool here, and then setting maybe we want 2 meters from this edge. And then it's going to move all of the modules away. This would be more of something you would do once you have the plans for the system. So you might already have all of the data that here we've just assumed a few values, but here you want to be quite precise. You can align the different sections, but it's also then a good way to check just to make sure that the calculation and the planning is online, because maybe the system has, or your designs have a 2 meter gap on this side and a 2 meter gap on this side, and then something's wrong. So maybe the rails calculating something that hasn't been accounted for in the plans, or maybe there's one module too many that you thought might fit, but actually now it doesn't fit. And so it's kind of a good way to check those precise values that you have as well. So you'll also notice now that we have a yellow line that runs down here, and this is our thermal gap. The thermal gap topics are one that's quite important for, actually very important for all of the systems that we have, and it's referring to the distance that one rail or one set of connected modules has before there's a gap occurring. And in this case, the easy explanation is that for roughly 1 meter of aluminium, the difference between highest temperature in summer and coldest temperature in winter could lead to an expansion of an extra centimeter, so a 1% change. If you have then 20 meters, you're looking at a 20 centimeter change. If you have 40 meters, you have 40 centimeter change. And this has the potential to be quite detrimental to the roof, but also the PV industry. So, sorry, the PV modules on the roof. So for all of the systems that we have, we ensure that after a certain distance, we put a brake. Right? And so for the different systems, it's a little bit different. In this one, we can, so I've just lost my mouse. If we just jump one forward, I can click on a module, and we've got a 17.39 meter length rail. So we have 18 meters in this direction. And if we're just jumping back one now, we have the option here. So we have 15 modules, and then we're going to put a gap. If you have narrower modules, then it might be 16 modules, and you can sort of, it's a length of meterage of rail rather than a number of modules. In this direction, there is actually no need for a thermal gap because these rails are running this way, and the modules are not connected in any way to the modules above as well. So not so much of a topic for the pitched roof, but in the flat roofs, they are connected in both directions in many cases. So the thermal gaps are changing there in both ways. You can change this. Maybe you want it a little more centered. So if we have 24 here, it would make sense to put it in the middle. So we could make it as 12. We're going to put it in the middle there. But what we could also do if we wanted to come from one side or the other, maybe we want 10, but we want 10 starting on one side or starting on the other side. Or we can have it from, here we go, 10 starting from one side, and then 10 again, and then 4 on the end, or 10 starting in the middle as well. So you can play around with it a little bit. There is also the option of manually changing them. So if I wanted to just put another one in the middle, then we can do it like this as well. So the playing around with the thermal gaps, I would say, is probably a bit more advanced, but I just wanted to show that there is this option of breaking up the module fields in different ways to potentially have a easier install, or potentially just have a nicer, more symmetric looking module field, rather than having what we had in the beginning, where you had 15 modules and then 9 modules. So from an aesthetics point of view, it's quite easy to play around. So I'm just going to jump back one more part here, because this is our, as I said, this is our play section of the tool. We've put in all of our information here, and now we're going to decide what we're going to do with it. So we had the option of the portrait before, but if we wanted to do a landscape option, so our modules are now facing or running horizontally, it's going to be a little bit different. We will have to do a 2-layer system. The reason being, we want to ensure that those modules are clamped on the correct or the ideal positions, which is roughly 1/4 in from both ends. And to do that, our rails have to be running the same way. And just jumping sort of one forward, this is looking quite messy, and it was just just for demonstration, I wanted to show that if our rafters are running at 1.5 meters, obviously our rails cannot run the same way because the rafters don't match with the modules. So in this case, we need the 2-layer system. But we'll stick for the 1-layer system at the moment. This is sort of the ideal setup. And we have the option of selecting different clamps. So if you know that something is specifically on stock in your region and you want to use one clamp over the other clamp, you can select that here. There is also the option of the silver and black in terms of which versions of the products you're using. So once you've made all these decisions, we can then go look and see what we have on site. So we'll jump back on to our base project, and we will see here that we have a very important message. One or more of the components is overloaded, and this means that we should stop and reconsider something. So we've put in our building data that we can't change, but we can change either something in the design section, or we can change something that is here. But to get a bit more information of what is wrong, we can click through these sections here. These are part of the calculations that we see. The snow and wind loads get converted into pressure for the building slope. So we test the loads on the modules that are here as well. But we can also then look at the utilization. In this case, everything's overloaded, so we have not really selected a right product. Or if you remember at the very beginning, I changed the roof from a spacing from, I think it was 65 or maybe 70 to 1.2. And so for this 1.2, it's not a suitable rafter distance. So if we jump back, our roof hooks are overloaded. That's what's represented here. Our base rail is overloaded, and we also have a cantilever that is too long. And so I can get an idea of what all of the problems are and maybe how to fix them. So I know just from looking at it that this cantilever over here is too long because we have a rail that's just extending all of the way out here. So I could maybe delete these modules here. That's not what I wanted to do, sorry. And so our cantilever now is gone, but we still have the problem that our rails and our system is overloaded. So maybe we want to use a stronger rail. Our base rail option is in here. I can have a look now and say, oh, okay, so my rails are now not overloaded, my tension's not overloaded. And maybe I have a different hook that is more suitable for this situation. And so this one's not going to be suitable as well. So we might have a situation where actually no product is suitable, and then you might have to look at a different solution. And this is where then K2 can help internally by you sending us the data and saying, hey, I have this set up. I can't find a solution for it. Is there a product that's on your range in your catalog that could be suitable? Because Base provides, I'd say 95% of all of the things that K2 are selling, but there are always those certain situations where the products don't work or the system doesn't work. And in these cases, we have an internal team that can look at that themselves. So I confused myself a little bit right at the beginning by making that reference to the 1.2 in Sweden. And so if we put it to something that's probably more a little realistic for what you would see in and around Greece, and then just wait for it to kick back up. I should say at the moment, Base works really well moving from left to right. But if you ever have to kind of go back and change the loads or change the roof, there is the potential that it may just need a moment to recalculate. And so now we've updated it now. and it looks like it has not quite fully updated. Let's try to reboot it. There we go. So now those rafter distances are much closer together, which is what we put in before. And we have an option that everything is in order, and we can see that our everything is below 100%, and you've got this green tick, which effectively means we have planned the system to a way that, if built correctly, K2's covering everything. K2 has done the calculations from the wind and snow analysis. K2 has done their tests on their products. They've also done the tests on the interaction between the products and the fastening material, whatever that is. And we are comfortable as K2 to for you to install this system. And that's probably a really important point to know as well. This tool operates as or the software operates as a tool for you as the installer or the project manager to do the calculation for yourself. So we cannot take responsibility of the inputs that you put into this software, but the calculation that happens behind that is all then done by K2. So if we just jump back, maybe we're going to use a lighter rail because it's strong, it's not as necessary. But you see here that when you choose a lighter rail, so the ultralight rail, you might need a fastener on every hook. And if you use a different rail that's a little bit stronger, it's going to cost more. You won't need a fastener on every hook. And maybe if you use a different hook, then you might not need one at all, just depending on the hook that you use. I should preference this with this specific roof type, so with the tile roofs. You do have a lot of options here for different products that K2 selects. What is really important though is to ensure that the tile that you have is going to work on the roof that the tile hook you have is going to work with the tile that exists on your roof. So everything else everything on this page you can kind of play around with and set the modules where you want them. Once you get to here, while there is a long list of tiles, it's important that you have also done a physical check on the tile that you have and the tile hook that is related to that. And we have in the question mark a small overview of like which tiles are suitable in which situations. So which tile hooks are suitable in which situations. But on the website that we have as well, there's a matrix that has a little bit more information and shows pictures of which tile hooks are suitable with which tiles. And I highly encourage you to refer to this matrix and this document that you see here before selecting the tile hook. So in this case, I think the first one that we got was the Vario 2. That was the one that just came up at the beginning. So in this case, it's not potentially going to be suitable. We can see that it's overloaded. So what we could say is, all right, well, let's see if any of the other ones work. We know that the Alpine hook works, so that's great. But we should then test it against the matrix that we had and just ensure that the tiles and the tile hook are going to interact together. So once we've selected our tile hook and the rail type that we want, we can also select the quantity of it. So if we turn off a few things here, and base shows a lot of information, so it's good to have a sort of a bit of an idea of what it all means and where and how to view it. So at the moment, we are just looking at the rails and the modules and the roof, right? And the rails can be made up of different lengths because so we sell all of these lengths. However, the warehouse that's near you, or maybe you know what you have on stock, it might only be one specific product. And so if you're not selling, or if you're not able to get the 4.4 meters, you can still do the calculation, but you just have to ensure that you're going to select the 3.3 meters, and then you'll see that the rails will be made up of 3.3 meter lengths instead of 4.4. If you have multiple ones on stock, you can select most of them, and then Base will optimize this and give you a sort of best solution for the rails, and to go with the clamps and the hooks that you already have as well. There are also a few sort of, let's say, optional extras as well. So if you are using optimizers, you can add them in here. This will add a specific product to the system. Cable management and clamps, so they all have different meanings and different products, and maybe we'll put the teragriffs on as well. And then when we get to that next page, we'll see sort of what that means. So we've spoken a fair bit about this specific page. Probably the one other thing that's useful, I think really useful for people doing the sort of the first or early installations, is that the colors here that you see, maybe I'll turn these off, represent the zones on the roof, which are also defined by the Euro codes. So just generally speaking, if you're at the corner of the roof down the bottom in this red zone here, you will experience, or the modules will experience, more wind. So maybe if you're going to put PV on the system and it's not possible to plan in here, it might be possible to plan in the middle, because the roof as a whole has wind acting a little bit different depending on where you are. And we go into this in a lot more detail in some of the other webinars and videos that we have, so I don't want to discuss this too much, but to give you a quick demonstration, if we move our modules away from this corner region, and you can see here that this module is in the corner region and it has 75% for the fastener strength, and the other values are there. But if we select it somewhere in the middle, those values are changing. It has gone up, but that's for a different reason. And I have now got back to, I think, my level of complexity that I didn't really want to, but we are there now. So on the corner, we're putting one on every rafter because we have to, but on the middle, we don't have to put one on every rafter because the modules aren't experiencing so much force there as well. So if you see something sort of like this, or if it's overloaded, it might only just be on the corner, and you could then say, all right, well, I can change. I don't want to put modules on the corner. Let's just make this a little bit different. And we can bring in this. And yeah, I don't have as many modules anymore, but the building and the situation may specify that that has to happen. So in this case, I could get away with it, but in other cases, I potentially have to build only in the middle of the roof due to the snow and the wind that will build up in the different regions. So then moving on to our last page, this is where we have finished everything in our summary page. And from here, you get a really good overview and the opportunity to export to different parts of our software, but also the software of other companies as well. So if you have multiple roofs, you see a small overview of that information there. The power, the modules, all of the components that you're going to use on the roof, and you have a nice little picture of them as well, depending on the part that you have. I spoke before about adding optional extras. So here we have the teragriff. It's been added now because we selected it, we wanted it, and we can put that in there. We also have the way of exporting to a number of different functions. So the probably main one that we export to would be the report, and the report provides a range of information which is useful for different parties. But to give you a quick overview, we have all of the, let's say, not all of the terms and conditions, but a general overview from K2. All of the input values that we've done, so where the project is, which modules we're going to use, which snow and wind that we have to use according to the Euro codes. We have a nice picture of the project, a layout for showing the roof dimensions, how to cut the rails up. So for the installers on site, this is also can be useful part of this document. Specific distances between rails that you need for that installation process. And if we scroll then down even further, we get to the calculation that has occurred within the software. So you've done the project, you've built it, 5-10 years later, you have a problem. If you have this document, you can say, hey, well, this is the calculation that K2 has done. I have built it to standards. I have built it to all of these standards that are listed here. I, as the installer, am covered. You also see at the very bottom. Sorry, these are all the calculations, so that it is quite in depth. Not all of it you need to know, but it's good to know that it is there. And then at the bottom, you have the bill of materials as well. So just jumping back, the bill of materials is probably one of the most important things because you need to buy it at some point as well. So usually what you have had to do or you've had to do in the past is download a bill of materials as an Excel document, take it to your local distributor. But now what we have is an export function but also to a number of other software in terms of the inverters and string design. That's a little bit different to what we'll talk about today. But we also have the option of exporting to a specific warehouse. So, sorry, a specific distributor's warehouse. And then from there, you can purchase it as well. So for this website, for this webinar, I've just pulled up all of the Krannich ones that we have in there. So depending on the country that you are in, obviously you probably only want the one that is from there. We're always looking to add more and more to the system as well. So if you don't see your country here now, don't be overly concerned. I know the Krannich K2 connection is strengthening rapidly and quickly, and I'm sure that the country will be there quite quickly as well. Simon, I might then pass over to you just to show everyone how they get this K2 Krannich connection sorted, because this is something we've set up already for this webinar. But if someone's got a new account with K2, or if they're trying to set it up, how would they go about ensuring that this connection is possible?
Yeah, thank you, Ciaran, for the excellent presentation yet. Yeah, I'm Simon van der Veer from the German Krannich Solar and the Central Sales Department. I will show you how it looked like, the magical moment when you use the interface to bring the components to the web shop or for your wholesaler. First of all, I will show you how to maintain your favorite wholesalers. For that, you click on the settings on the right corner. Next, you click on one of these links, view company profile. And after that, you have to click to Webshop Connect. Then you have to choose your specific country. In my case, it's Germany, but also you will find the available wholesalers for the other countries. In Germany, you have a bigger amount to choose at. Yeah, of course, I will choose Krannich Solar. So when we have maintained that, you can go on the function in the summary. So, and here at the end of the list, you will find the button, and then with one click, you have to choose the wholesaler, your favorites you maintained before, and then the web shop of your wholesaler will open automatically, and the articles will fill in automatically from K2 base into the order lists of our web shop. After that, you are able to add more articles or to put it in the checkout or to make a duplicate like this, or to download it, or to delete the DOS. Yes, that's my part. If you have further questions, don't hesitate.
Thank you, Simon, for the explanation. Yeah, we need to come back to Karen. We have a lot of K2.
I forgot
okay.
one important point. Sorry, it's very important that you use the same email address for K2 and the wholesaler web shop, that you can use this interface. Sorry.
Thanks for the adding. Yeah, we received a lot of questions. Some are really in detail. I'm pretty sure we cannot answer them all in detail. I choose a few. They are really interesting and helpful for all of you in the basic training. So Karen, first question is there a solution if I have an installation in between the rafters? Where can I bring my hook there?
Yeah, so can you share my, I can share my screen.
Yeah, 1 second. I will.
Yeah, I think I can do it as well.
Give you the right to share your screen.
Yeah, I will preference this with, we have a solution which is only suitable for, which is only calculated for Sweden, which is implemented in base. So if this question has come from the Nordic region, there is a way of doing it with specific roof hooks. However, if this question has come generally, we have a product which is an emergency situation, I would say. So if you're calculating and you're just got to the edge of the roof and you don't have a rafter, you do have the option of using a specific product, which, yeah, bit prepared as well, which is this. So for some of the products we have, some of the hooks we have, the single hook and the solid hook 3S and 4S, we have this crossboard which comes in 2.2 meter lengths or 2.1 meter lengths. Sorry, thanks, Klaus, and it operates as a bridge between those rafters. So in this case, it might not be so necessary to put one potentially here and here. But if your rafter spacing is a little bit wider, or you've got close to the edge, or maybe you want to put one sort of on the edge of the modules that, or the edge of the module field, you can use this product, and you can, I believe, I hope, you put me on the spot a bit here. You can still see my screen, right, Justin?
Yeah,
Yep.
we see it. Yeah.
That it should be editable in here, but maybe not. So most of the products we have in our system are in base, but some of them are not. So it's just got the wrong name for it. So the base plate single board, and I can either copy that number directly and add it in here as well. And I know some of the guys that we do the webinars with, or some of the guys in the team that are their ex or old roofers, old installers, they highly recommend having just a couple of these around if you're using the single the single hook 3S and 4S, because if you're on site and you need this this filler, it's really important to have it right there and then. Otherwise, your whole installation is going to be delayed by usually weeks, just depending on where you can get your material from. But your whole plan is sort of thrown out the window for such a silly thing as needing half a module. So that was a bit more in depth than I thought that it should be, Justin. But was there another question then we could go through as well?
Yeah. Let's go to another question. The next question is it possible to remove from our design the thermal gap, or why do we need it? Maybe you can explain it a little bit deeper.
Yeah, so for the thermal gaps, we cannot remove it. And so this is something that K2 has specified. We don't want to put it we don't want to put so much stress on the building. So in this specific case, let's imagine that we're reaching roughly the maximum. Each module here has a force and a pressure that's being applied to it. This is then being applied into the rail as well, and this rail is then fixed in every roughly 1.2 meters into the roof. In the height of summer, this rail will extend due to the thermal expansion of the rail. And in the cool of the winter, it will contract. And while this might not be a problem for 1 year or 2 years, over time, the thermal expansion of this rail is going to put an extra pressure, an extra load onto the roof that is not necessary to be there. So as I was saying before, we assume, or we roughly estimate for 1 meter of rail, we're going to expand 1 centimeter. And in this case, if we were to run a rail across the whole roof, which is 31 meters, there would be some stress on the rafter all the way across here and the rafter all the way across here, and some extra stress because the rails are pushing out in the summer and pulling in the winter. And we want to avoid this stress to a certain extent. And to avoid this stress, we put in the thermal spacing. So it's a safety factor from K2, but it also helps the building and the rafters not have this extra expansion and contraction. Obviously, the building will have expansion and contraction itself, but this is going to be at a different rate to the aluminium profiles as well.
Cool. Let's come to the last question because of the time is flying so fast. When I have a rooftop with more tops or different roof types, how can I build up or set up a second, a third rooftop? Is it possible with the K2 base tool, and how can I blend the second and third rooftop?
That's a really good question, because often you will do multiple ones and you can always add a second roof. So maybe these 2 buildings are together. On the roof page, I can add a roof. And let's say I want to do this one, and I'll just really quickly do it a little bit different. So this is a different roof type we have, which has a slightly different characteristics, but we can draw sort of a hip style part of it. And now we can fill out all of that information that we building length that we needed for the first roof, and we can even do them next to each other as well. So if this is now called roof 2, but maybe it's like the southern roof south, and if we wanted to draw another roof on the same building, we could do the same thing, always starting at the bottom and then drawing our roof next to each other. And again, this isn't perfect because the imaging isn't there, but we can always add a second and third roof or fourth roof. And I think once you get over 15 roofs, the base software slows down a little bit, but for projects like this, you can do it quite easily. But probably just one thing to add onto that as well, if you wanted to draw separate modules, you have exactly the same feature where you can add a second field, which looks a little bit different as well. So this functionality is in both.
Perfect. That's it for the moment. I think if there are upcoming questions, please feel free to ask your local Krannich representative or the K2 representative. They are also located in a lot of countries. And Ciaran, correct me, but you also offer a lot of webinars where you go more in detail. Where can the customers find them?
Absolutely. So on our website, there is a link to all of our webinars. Every Wednesday, we do a webinar in German and in the morning and English in the afternoon, covering the same topics. And if there is a follow-up email for this webinar. Maybe we could put the link into that, but the pretty much straight from our website. And I think even if you log on to Base for the first time today, you'll get a pop-up regarding a webinar we're doing next week on Intersolar, which we had last week.
Perfect. So Ciaran, thank you for the great presentation and answer all our questions. Simon, thank you for the introduction, coming from the K2 base planning into the Krannich webshop. And yeah, thank you all for joining this webinar. If we sparked your interest, please feel free to contact us, and hopefully see you soon in one of our next Krannich Solar webinars. Take care and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.